This content is intended for adult listeners only. Listener discretion is advised.
Surprise, surprise. I ended up staying in Southern Dominion for a while. I ate a lot of sweet potatoes. I'm sitting on a stool in a chemistry lab, waiting for Chief Winona Red Feather. A few workers in the back, the windows are open, and I can see a lot of people forming a big circle and setting up for some kind of a community activity. The weather is perfect, the clouds are majestic, and I feel at peace. Well, before Chief Red Feather arrives, a brief recap of what I've learned from our last kid who tagged into Homeland a couple of years ago. Chief Red Feather is a negotiator. She's a chemist by training, social justice warrior. She's soft-spoken and quiet. I just may have to get her to be emotional in order to get her to share. Homeland Eslo originally included Wyoming, but eventually Northern Imperial found huge deposits of rare earth materials there, so Homeland lost that state for their protection. Homeland is the only Eslo without an official purpose. Now, we know that Chief Red Feather is a chemist. On my long trek here, I passed by a few of the areas where the rare earth materials had been mined, often surrounded by large mounds that frankly smelled like death. I need to know how these rare earth materials translate to energy for the Northern Imperial and the resulting massive mounds. And what I'm guessing? Burial sites strewn throughout the restricted zone.
Entertaining Diversity presents Caucus, After the Fall, created by Teja Arboleda.
Well, it looks like my rapid test shows that I'm completely compatible with your Eslo parameters for the variant.
Yeah, we really don't need to be worried about that. Thanks for informing me, but to be honest, I don't think it ever really was an issue.
Oh, why's that?
We didn't think the virus attacked different races in different ways. I mean, millions of our ancestors were killed by Europeans. We survived. We haven't seen a case in a long time. Even between races. I mean, some people, mostly young people, they cross over and into, we think, from other Eslos, but they seem to be doing fine. UDAP hasn't even been around in a few years.
I know you're busy, but I just wanted to mention that I'm here because I'm traveling to different Eslos to speak with Eslo leaders like yourself. Your stories will be the first featured entries for the American Race War Museum and Memorial. That's what I'm putting together.
I've only been in this role for a couple of years. My predecessor would have been a much better option for you.
Oh, well, I think your story will suffice. I'm sure you have plenty to say.
There really isn't much to say. And besides, we've been featured in museums for hundreds of years. Artifacts, statues, proverbs, clothing. And frankly, it's all not very accurate, and it's mostly misleading. I mean, how's this even going to be helpful? As far as I'm concerned, there are a lot more important things to accomplish.
Yes, I know you're busy, and thank you again. But I'm just getting stories, accounts of what lives were like.
Stories? Whose stories?
Well, they're...
Whose memories are they?
All the Eslo leaders, as I said.
And you want me to tell my story? With no manipulation?
Well, I am a producer, if that's what you're asking. And yes, I used to make documentaries for television and the internet when those still existed. But I'm not a producer now. No, there's no manipulation, and there shouldn't be. Now I'm just, hopefully, I'm a friend, an advocate. I'm just listening in on the stories, and your story will become part of the library of stories. Just making sure that this never happens again.
Okay, I've heard about you, or at least your profession, from my father. A couple of times he used you as an example of someone who challenged the system. But he also said you had an agenda. So let's be perfectly clear. I don't want anything that has an agenda. I don't want to be a part of anything that has an agenda. I mean, what is the ultimate goal and the purpose
Well,
of
as I
this?
said, it's a museum. It's just a museum. Let's just start small, maybe a traveling showcase. I'm not really sure.
Do we get to hear the other stories?
I certainly hope so, if you're interested. It's been a number of months since I've been on the road, and I also have to put it all together. More importantly, I have to get to all the other Eslos alive.
Where did you come from?
Well, I just came from Southern Dominion. It's the Black African...
Yeah, I know where it is. I know where it is. But it's across the country.
Yeah, well, I was able to get here safely because I believe UDAP has been dissolved.
I mean, that doesn't even make sense. They're all over the place. They come here regularly, and our young people terrorize and scare them off. I used to be one of them. But I think they're preparing to take the war directly to us, so we're always vigilant.
Why would you think that UDAP is taking the war to you? What if I were to tell you that Davidson is dead?
Well, I'd say you're full of surprises.
Well, we think he's dead.
Who's we? I mean, how would you even know this? Like, what does this mean? We are still at war. His supporters are still fighting for him.
I am part of the collective called La Mura, where mixed-race freedom fighters...
I've never heard of it. Are you part of that rebel terrorist group that bombed the cities?
Well, that's what people assume. They often assume that.
Why is it that you're not part of an Eslo? I mean, how did you get away with it? Are you some sort of secret organization? How did UDAP never find you? I mean, where is this place?
We're everywhere, nowhere. We're mostly an encampment that moves tens or hundreds of miles a year, depending on resources, the climate, activities by UDAP.
You're telling me you were able to hide from UDAP?
Mostly. But in the past year, UDAP has seemingly stopped operations, and the borders are starting to open?
Davidson, the Northern Imperial, UDAP, they'd never let that happen. But are you saying that your little community of mixed-race vigilantes have inside information on the operations of UDAP and all of the Eslos, all the districts?
Yes.
That's impossible.
And the Northern Imperial.
How? How can that be?
We have been covert ever since 2035, when Esperanza Alvarez started La Mura. Have you heard her name?
Esperanza Alvarez? No, I've never heard of her. Should I?
She had a son. And you wouldn't have known the connection, but his name is Tomo.
Tomo?
Mm-hmm.
Tomo stayed with our community members.
It's not a very common name, so I wouldn't be surprised if his name would come up.
He was a sweet kid who appeared one day. He was a bit strange and quiet, but many of our people took care of him. I remember we welcomed him here. When he came, we thought he was native. He fit right in, although it did take him a while to open up. I remember Tomo, but he wasn't here long. He stayed maybe for 2 months. And then one night he disappeared.
I am friends with Esperanza. I work with Esperanza. Esperanza is Tomo's mother.
He has a mother, but he came alone. Had she abandoned him, or...
I had a suspicion you might know Tamil.
Even though he wasn't here very long, we did get to know him. He told us stories about being abandoned and he had to live in different places.
He told you about living in different communities?
Yes. He told us that he had moved over and over again until he found us.
Oh.
I don't know who he had been with, but when he got here, he was troubled. He was a mess.
I don't know why he would share having been in different communities and traveling. He was born in Lamura.
So he's mixed race. With native blood or without?
No, he doesn't have native blood. What does it mean to you that a non-native person being part of your community didn't make you sick?
I'm thinking the variant-triggered diseases that were supposedly race-specific is something you don't believe. Do you?
Do you believe that all humans are monoracial or that different races exist?
I know Columbus thought we were Indian, which would be Asia today. The colonists thought we were savages, merciless savages, in fact. We didn't all necessarily live in harmony. You know, our ancestors had many wars between nations, native people fighting each other, relatives. And then the Europeans, we all know that they put us in one category. They just disregarded our cultural differences. Europeans, they just mixed and separated and redistributed us. It was their way of denying us our identity and our heritage.
Chief Red Feather, which nation were your parents and ancestors?
My father was Edisto. My mother was Rappahannock and Chickahominy. There was a lot of mixing through many generations, different ancestral lines. But some of us got to keep elements of our culture, our language and lands. Most of us did not. Before America, more than 30,000 years ago, there were millions, 15 million people, and over 550 nations. But genocide by Europeans, they killed 90%.
Wow. How many of you are there today?
Well, at the beginning of the race war, 250,000 survivors. Today, though, there's only 30,000 survivors. 30,000. And of those 30,000, we're 80% dependent on the support of neighboring ESOs for food and water, medical aid. We weren't part of the race war, at least not actively.
You stayed out of it?
We tried. But that meant no trade, you know? No resources, no food, medical supplies, no energy. You thought we were poor before the war? We had so much taken from us. What we had to keep, what we had to save was our culture and our community. We had to, and we still have to defend ourselves. The history, it's ours. We're willing to die for that. That was the extent to which we would defend our people and honor our ancestors.
Would you go to war?
If other Eslos go to war with us, then we will go to war. But as I said, we try to avoid it. We are a resilient people. And after the Great Migration, we did arrive here. It was difficult getting here and difficult being here at first. But we came together, we're community-oriented, and this new place, this new space became our home. The community, food, families. The village protected us. And from that, we had laughter and love, and our children, our elders, our storytellers. Like always, it was our generations taking care of one another to make our ancestors' dreams come true.
Was this always the case for you? Did you always feel this way growing up?
Of course. When I was a very young girl before the Great Migration, my mother used to take me to powwow. We had to travel some distance because it wasn't near our home, sometimes pretty far. But getting there was so worth it to be with our community, our relatives, our friends, our culture, the circle, the drum, our traditional songs and food, our dances.
Maybe there's some good things that come from the Eslos. How did you survive, though, during the war?
We have survival in our blood and the guidance of our ancestors. We've had to survive for our children and our children's children.
During the Great Migration, you must have lost a lot.
We lost our home, we lost our people, but we didn't lose our dignity. We didn't lose our fight. But it was very difficult. Our people encountered the worst illnesses and disease. When it happened, I was 7 years old. I remember. It seemed endless, and I'll never forget seeing some of my relatives, older, younger. People were just dying in their hearts, but also their lives. I do remember seeing my aunt, my mother's sister. I remember she was slowing down, and everyone did everything that we could to try and ease her pain and make her as comfortable as we could. And we gathered around her, and right there in front of me, I was only 7. But she made her journey to the spirit world in front of all of us. We couldn't bury her. We couldn't honor her in the way we should have and wanted to. And she wasn't the only one. We couldn't return them to the earth. There were so many that we couldn't bury. We had to leave them. And though we offered prayers, and it was so hard because some had come such a great distance to actually not make it to the end. Some had come from before Minnesota and even from before Massachusetts, like me. And I think what helped me was I had my mother and father, my older sisters, and my little brother. My uncle, he was there too. His heart broke when he had to say goodbye to my aunt. It was too hard. When we got to Homeland, my uncle took his own life. I know why.
Where do you think the turning point was for you and Homeland?
When we arrived at Homeland, many Native histories formed an even more complex and beautiful culture together. But even that wasn't enough for some. Some of our young people were desperate. Desperate to stay, desperate to leave, desperate to get out. They didn't see where their hearts were, and they got caught in the world out there. Some got on a path that led them away, and they never came back. Many of our young men and boys, actually, they wanted to fight for us. They were ready to battle, even though we had taught them to approach things with peace. As young people, they had seen so much, and the fight in them was never going to go away. I think it's ironic that we were sent to Homeland to die out, to be forgotten, but a new way to live, a new way to grow and thrive to a degree. So when we found ourselves pushed to Homeland, we blended those cultures and traditions and came together to save all of our nations in the way that we had always done that. We took our same mindset of being resilient and being resourceful to Homeland, having been sent there with the expectation that we were weak and we would die. We found ourselves able to identify food sources on the land and increase the yield of whatever we had and learn how to provide for everyone that was living there. We actually increased the buffalo population as well. With all of our resources, we became food sovereign.
What do you think it was about certain areas that are just outside of Homeland that you're restricted from, being that those were some of the areas where some of your people used to live?
Well, we certainly had the impact of the variant on our people, but we were different than those other areas. We actually were able to get rid of the variant. Some of our rebel youth would break open the vaccine shipping trucks and the containers and set the vaccine on fire. You know, we actually scared the men off, those UDAP soldiers. This was our place now. I think our defiance and our strength is really what saved us. But it was too dangerous to venture out to other states. The land was poisoned, and the variant was too virulent.
Do you think that there was another reason they didn't involve you in the war?
What are you saying?
Do you think that they were hiding something? Why is Homeland in this location? Why is it in this district?
Are you saying there's a conspiracy? I wouldn't be surprised. There had to be a reason why we were pushed away from the areas we were sent to back when the country was forming. They had already put us on land that was going to work against us. Why would they take us off? We always thought it was because there had to be a clear division between the races and that the Northern Imperial had the worst cases of the variant. And any mixing at all would have been tragic for them.
New Raja, which they changed the name to Xinjia. Do you know if they benefited from maybe some kind of rare earth minerals or resources? I don't know. Something that they had to process for the Northern Imperial. Well, almost like there's something valuable that they were handing off to the Northern Imperial. It's just, do you know where they might have gotten those resources from?
I know that Homeland was steered away from the valuable resources in the restricted zone. Something there would have been unsafe for us, would have ruined our land and created chaos and conflict. And
I can't believe that UDEP and the Northern Imperial would have any empathy for, to move you away from the land you were in. What if I told you that we have evidence that proves there was or is some kind of special deal, an arrangement between Xinjia and the Northern Imperial?
I'd say I was intrigued. And it makes me wonder what you had to sacrifice to even get this information.
I don't know if my sacrifices were any more difficult than anyone else's. La Mura was not just a mixed-race community that was hiding through the decades. We're actually a semi-military operation.
That sounds ridiculous. A military operation? There's no way you could be a match to UDAP. It's impossible.
Just in reflection of Tomo, who you know, I have to admit that my sacrifices were nothing compared to his. We also trained our own kids to spy.
Kids?
We start them at a very early age to get tagged. tagged is a word we use for getting adopted into other districts, into other SLOs. It's a military technique.
We're talking about children.
Because they're mixed in different ways, different races, they get stationed in districts to collect information about the SLO, operations, their lives, and, if possible, military strategies.
Are you telling me that you volunteer your own children to go to war? To be put in harm's way? Do I have that right? What kind of people do that? What kind of person are you? That's as bad as the war itself.
I know. It was really terrible. We are completely guilty of this, but you have to understand, it was necessary.
Necessary? It was necessary to put children into the enemy's hands? I don't want to know anymore. I'm sorry, this conversation is over.
Wait. Hold on. Hear me out. Please. Tamo has a sister, a half-sister, Esperanza's other child. Her name is Sema, and she's been instrumental in helping to uncover some very important information to end the war. I mean, this is just going back to your question about how and why. They meaning Tamo and Sema, were able to obtain evidence that Shinjia has underground aquifers, and they're processing rare earth minerals for the Northern Imperial. And I should have said this before, but I think there's something else going on, and there's another reason, or more egregious reason, as to why you were moved to Homeland.
Processing rare earth minerals? That's it? That's all you have from those kids? Any adult could have gotten you that information.
Well, you didn't, did you?
Where are those kids?
I
What happened to them? How many other kids did you send away? How many didn't survive? Did they die?
don't know. I'm looking for them.
You're looking for them?
Yeah, and I hate me if you must, but I am also traveling to different SLOs to find them. And Tamo and Sema particularly, because they have such important information that could help us end this war.
Because they have more evidence that you need, or is it because you feel guilty? You feel guilty?
Well, of course I do. I will die with this guilt, no matter if we find them or not. They both infiltrated the Northern Imperial together, and they brought back a lot of damning evidence and information, and that's how we know what we know, and that's how ultimately the former president was assassinated. At least that's what we think, and that's ultimately how I think the war ended. I think the war has ended. How else would I have gotten here?
I don't know if the war has ended, but I do know you've committed some very bad acts. We lost so many children, but you gave yours up. You have to find those children.
Yeah.
Their childhood is over. They're adults now, and you gave them up.
We trained them well, so I know they're still alive. I'm confident of that. We just need to bring them home. But you said yourself, would you have to go to war? Would it be wise to think about allowing Native children to go to fight?
That's different. We were forced to. Otherwise, they would have killed us all.
I'm afraid there's more bad news. We believe there are mass grave sites in the restricted zone, and they're not from the Great Migration. I believe this is the reason all districts were prohibited from the restricted zone. And my question to you is, all the Native young men and boys, some girls who were conscripted, not one of them came home?
Very few came home. Our elders, they were not thinking straight. And we never heard from any of them. The children. You're right. Many of our children should not have been taken to go fight. We didn't even know what they were fighting about, what kind of war this was. It's all unbelievably horrible. I always thought bad news would come back to us. We got complacent. I guess it was easier to believe that it was better to have separate lives. We could just be ourselves.
I've already been to several districts, and each one reports the same. We believe that all soldiers, millions, were sent to fight. This is from all ESLOs. But they were killed? Maybe to make it look like a war was going on, like it was a play. And you wouldn't know that because nobody was allowed to go into the restricted zone, right? And the cover-ups, there are resources or maybe even rare earth materials that are used to generate energy. That's what we're guessing. It was Dorado that was supposed to supply energy. Maybe I'll have to go there next, I don't know. But do you know anybody who can help us understand what the chemicals and rare earth materials could be used for?
I'm a chemist. You said the rare earth materials are being washed into Raja for energy production? There's a whole process, and it's not just washing. I don't know, they must be using chemicals to clean and purify the rare earth materials. Some of those chemicals are highly volatile, meaning explosive.
Explosive? Explosive, you said? I think it runs deeper than just some cover-up. What do you know about these chemicals? Have you been looking into this?
Look, if New Raja is doing the processing, then they're severely compromised. That also makes the Northern Imperial manipulative. I don't know. You need to speak to someone in Dorado.
So Dorado because they used to be the Energy Central District. I see, yeah. Well, what do you think happened to Dorado? Like, why would they no longer have that purpose? Every ESLO has a purpose. Something must have happened. I can understand that there's some connection between Shinjia and the Northern Imperial.
Well, these chemicals are also used to speed up the decomposition of organic materials, which could be what was being used on the mass grave sites. I mean, honestly, it means you'll have to get to those mass grave sites before there's no evidence left. You might be running out of time. I would not be able to go with you. I have my people and community, and they need me to be here. I won't leave them.
And I can't leave Tamu and Sema. Again, I have to find them.
I think I know why. Because they're your children too. And because they'll help you uncover the truth and hopefully bring justice to this disgrace of a war.
Caucus After the Fall stars Michael To as Chief Lingyun Chen, Ian Lyons as William Duchesne, Jackie Davis as Chief Rose Jacobs, Rena Maliszewski as Chief Winona Red Feather, Naheem Garcia as Chief Ricardo Gutierrez, Celeste Oliva as Chief Amihan Bekele, Michelle Aguillon as Chief Akane Ashikaga, Shahjahan Khan as Lieutenant General Shimer Rashid, and Teja Arboleda as the producer, with additional voiceover by Barbara Wilson Arboleda. Created and written by Teja Arboleda. Script advisor Barbara Wilson Arboleda. Directed and executive produced by Teja Arboleda. Co-produced by Michael To and Barbara Wilson Arboleda. Original music and soundscaping by Arshan Galas. Edited by Teja Arboleda. Casting director Michael To. Development Director, Dan Watanabe. Marketing Coordinator, Katie Arboleda. Special thanks to Desiree Cooper. This podcast was recorded under a SAG-AFTRA micropod agreement. Caucus After the Fall is an entertaining diversity production in partnership with To Arboleda Films. Caucus After the Fall was developed from the original story Caucus by Teja Arboleda. All characters and other entities appearing in this work, Caucus and Caucus After the Fall, are fictitious. Any resemblance to real persons, dead or alive, or other real-life entities, past, present, or future, is purely coincidental. For more information, go to www.entertainingdiversity.com.